Night fell over Seoul with the force of a divine lament. The rain fell in heavy waves, washing away the city's rooftops and sins, while lightning streaked the sky as if fate itself were signing a sentence. In the imposing Kang mansion, the windows reflected golden lights that seemed to watch the courtyard like the eyes of a silent judge, witnessing what should never happen. In the center of that almost sacred and cruel scene, Hana Yoo knelt in the mud, her white dress soaked and her face stained. With tears and rain, her breathing was shallow, but her gaze remained steady, the last spark of dignity before a love that was turning into judgment. At the door, sheltered under a black umbrella, Jun-ho Kang watched silently. His face, sculpted by power and coldness, betrayed no compassion. He was the man who bought companies, destroyed competitors, and manipulated destinies, and now he was destroying the heart that loved him most. Beside him, Mi-yeon, in a red dress and a practiced smile, rested one hand on her stomach, a symbol of the promise Hana could never keep. The scarlet color of the fabric contrasted with the pure white of the kneeling woman, as if fate itself had decided to paint the scene with the colors of betrayal. "I gave you everything, Jun-ho," Hana whispered, her voice trembling, almost drowned out by the sound of the storm. Why was it never enough? His gaze remained unmoving, and the answer came coldly, without hesitation. "Because you didn't give me what I wanted most, an heir." The sentence fell hard, harder than any thunderclap. Hana tried to stand, but her legs gave way. Her dress became dirty with mud, her tears mixed with the rain, and the world seemed to collapse around her. In that moment, Jun-ho believed he was winning, but what he couldn't see was what was growing inside her, a strength known only to a betrayed heart. Hana slowly raised her face, and with the serenity of someone who no longer fears anything, she said in a firm voice, "One day, fate will teach you what it really means to lose." He turned his back, indifferent, without imagining that that phrase would echo throughout his life. The rain continued to fall, covering the sound of the gate closing like a verdict. But what Jun-ho didn't know was that sometimes true judgment doesn't come from the gods, nor from justice. It comes from love that has been humiliated and decides to return to claim what is its own. And when that day comes, who will be on their knees before whom? If this scene has already captivated you, subscribe now and activate the bell to follow every twist and turn of this story. Leave a like if you want to find out where fate will take Hana and Jun-ho. Before the rain washed away her fate, Hana had been presented to the world as the perfect wife. It had all begun 5 years earlier in a lavish ceremony in the marble halls of Seoul Imperial Hotel, where every flower, every toast, and every camera flash seemed to announce the beginning of a blessed union. She, a young woman of humble origins, the daughter of a retired teacher from Busan, had been chosen to marry Jun-ho Kang, heir to the Hanseong Empire. The marriage was not born of love, but of convenience, an agreement between traditional families to seal deals and save face. In the beginning, however, there was hope. Hana believed she could win her husband's heart with care and sincerity. She woke early to make him coffee, waited for him during the long nights when meetings, stretched on and smiled even when the silence at the table became uncomfortable. There was a rigidity about him that frightened her, but also an emptiness she longed to fill. Jun-ho, for his part, saw in his wife a gentle figure, yet far removed from the ambitions and coldness that the business world demanded. Still, there was something pure about her, something that made him for a time want to believe that love was possible even in marriages shaped by contracts. But the harmony was short-lived. After the first year of marriage, the whispers began. The press speculated that the new Mrs. Kang had not yet conceived. Superstitious investors spoke of bad luck. Jun-ho's mother, a strict and haughty woman, began to quietly demand payment with sharp words and accusatory looks. Each doctor's appointment became a ritual of hope and despair. And with each negative result, something in Hana broke a little more. Jun-ho began to withdraw. He began sleeping in another room, justifying it with work. When Hana tried to talk, he withdrew even more, as if her presence reminded him of his own failure. At social dinners, he limited himself to formal gestures, and the guests regarded her with that mixture of pity and judgment that only superficial societies can sustain. Still, Hana persisted. She visited temples, prayed, took natural remedies, all to prove herself worthy of this home. But the more she tried, the more her husband distanced himself, drowning in the loneliness of his own arrogance, until a new presence began to creep between them, quiet at first, then poisonous. Her name was Mi-yeon, a woman of sharp beauty and sweet words who worked in public relations at Jun-ho's company. Intelligent, persuasive, and skilled at understanding weaknesses, she quickly knew where to strike. She began to praise him publicly, listen to his frustrations in silence, and insinuate that perhaps the problem wasn't him, but his wife. And that's how a woman's empire began to crumble, not with screams, but with whispers. Back then, Hana still believed that love could conquer doubt, but she didn't know that Mi-yeon had already planted the seed that would destroy everything, and that soon the poison would begin to spread to every corner of the house. Mi-yeon emerged as a discreet breeze within Hanseong Group, but soon transformed into a silent hurricane. A former advertising model, always dressed in elegant dresses and expensive perfumes, she knew how to wield the power of presence. She never said more than necessary, never smiled beyond protocol, but every glance, every pause, every touch on Jun-ho's arm was calculated with surgical precision. She understood what he feared most, the public humiliation of being unable to produce an heir, and it was through this gap that she entered. At corporate lunches, Mi-yeon feigned genuine admiration for his ideas. She asked questions that made him feel brilliant, a man indispensable. Little by little, he replaced Hana's respectful silence with a voice that validated him, that made him believe he still had control over something. With each conversation, a small doubt was planted. Maybe Hana doesn't want a child. Maybe the problem lies with her. The poison of comparison spread quickly. Hana, at home, began to notice subtle changes, different scents on Jun-ho's clothes, curt answers, averted glances. He no longer looked at her the way he used to. The room where they had once met became a cold field, and conversations turned into long stretches of silence. When she hugged him, he pulled away, claiming exhaustion. One night, after finding a women's bracelet in his car, Hana calmly confronted him, trying to preserve what little dignity she had left. "Jun-ho, that's not mine," he simply replied, his gaze blank. "Maybe nothing is yours anymore, Hana. Not even me." Those words echoed like a sentence within her. It was as if the woman he'd loved had died, replaced by an invisible shadow. The next day, the headlines of entertainment portals featured a photo. Jun-ho Kang next to the beautiful Mi-yeon smiling at a charity event. Social media went wild, and the comments left no doubt. The new Mrs. Kang is perfect. Meanwhile, Hana retreated into silence, trying to understand how love could turn into humiliation. In the solitude of her home, she began writing letters to herself, confessions no one would read, but which served as a reminder that there was still life within her. What she didn't know was that Mi-yeon had plans more cruel than simply stealing a husband. She wanted to destroy the woman who had once been everything she couldn't be, pure, loved, and respected. Mi-yeon knew the only way to eliminate Hana completely was to expose her before everyone, not as a victim but as a disgrace. And to that end, she was already setting the perfect stage, an event where every glance, every flash, and every round of applause would make Hana wish she'd never been born. However, what Mi-yeon didn't imagine was that at the center of that humiliation she planned with such relish, fate was already preparing the first step toward her own downfall. Because every lie, sooner or later, finds the exact moment to be unmasked. The main hall of the Grand Seoul Hotel shone like a mirror of luxury and power. Crystal chandeliers reflected the gold on the walls, and the sound of clinking glasses created an atmosphere where everything seemed too perfect to be real. It was the gala night, celebrating Jun-ho's birthday, an event that brought together politicians, business people, and celebrities. Hana arrived punctually, wearing a long white silk dress, simple yet elegant. Her heart was pounding, not with love, but with premonition. She knew that night would be a turning point, though she didn't yet know how. When she entered the room, eyes turned to her like blades. Some whispered, others looked away in discomfort. In the center, like a crowned queen, stood Mi-yeon, stunning in a red dress that seemed made of fire, with a smile that blended sweetness and venom. Jun-ho stood at her side, and for a moment Hana's world seemed to stop. He didn't look at her, didn't move, didn't say a word. That public silence was worse than any insult. The guests greeted her politely, but their embarrassment was palpable. Amidst the toasts and speeches, Mi-yeon approached the microphone and, with the melodious voice of someone feigning innocence, announced with false emotion, "Before we sing happy birthday, I have something wonderful to share." A murmur ran through the room. She placed her hand on her stomach and with a calculated smile declared, "President Kang and I are expecting a baby." The applause was immediate. A sea of flashbulbs erupted. Jun-ho, visibly surprised, tried to hide his discomfort and grabbed her hand, and that gesture was the final blow to Hana. Her body froze, and the sound of her own heart seemed to echo louder than the clapping. A glass fell from her hand, shattering into 1,000 pieces on the marble floor. The silence that followed was awkward. All eyes fell on her. Mi-yeon stepped forward, feigning concern. "Hana, are you okay?" But what was visible in her eyes was triumph. Jun-ho, without hesitation, simply said in a low voice, audible enough to hurt her in front of everyone, "Please don't create any more scenes." Hana took a deep breath, swallowing back the tears that threatened to escape. Shame burned her skin like fire. Without a word, she turned and walked slowly toward the exit. Her head held high, because even suffering, when experienced with dignity, can transform into strength. Outside, the rain began to fall again, as if the sky insisted on witnessing the woman's every pain. The umbrella she carried was left behind, forgotten, as she walked alone down the illuminated avenue. But what Hana didn't yet know was that this would only be the beginning of her true ordeal. Because the public humiliation would be just the first step in the ruin Mi-yeon was planning, and the night still held a crueler blow in store, the divorce she never imagined she would hear from the one she loved most. The early morning in Seoul seemed colder than ever. The wind cut through the empty streets, while raindrops beat insistently against the windows of the Kang mansion, transforming every sound into a bitter reminder of the previous night. Hana stood silently before Jun-ho's closed bedroom door for long minutes, as if waiting for him to call her, for any word that might ease the weight of the shame still pulsing within her. But what came was the sound of keys turning in the lock, a clear sign that he didn't even want to look at her face. Silence at times hurts more than the cruelest scream. Hours later, when the clock struck almost 2 in the morning, Jun-ho came downstairs with a determined look, accompanied by 2 security guards. In the living room, Hana was waiting for him, still wearing the same dress from the party. The fabric stuck to her skin from the rain and tears. He didn't speak of love or forgiveness. He simply presented an envelope on the table. "Here's the divorce petition. I want you to sign it." His voice was cold, distant, almost impersonal. Hana tried to control the trembling in her hands. "Is this how it ends, after everything we've been through?" she asked, not waiting for an answer. He looked away, and for the first time she realized there was nothing there anymore. No anger, no love. Just the emptiness that arises when arrogance consumes everything around it. When she refused to sign, the outcome came like a hammer blow. Jun-ho ordered security to remove her from the house. With each step they took, Hana tried to stand her ground, but her body swayed under the weight of abandonment. Her bags were tossed onto the sidewalk like trash. The rain thickened, and thunder ripped through the sky with a sound that seemed to repeat her name. Kneeling before the gate, she took one last look at the mansion, the place where she had believed she would raise a family. The windows were dark except for one, where Mi-yeon's silhouette was outlined, watching her with a subtle, cruel smile. Anger didn't come, only a deep weariness, a feeling as if the whole world had collapsed on her shoulders. When the gate finally closed, the metallic clang sounded like the end of a life. Hana slowly stood up, mud dripping from her hands and her white dress, now stained brown. Cold water ran down her face, but it was impossible to tell where the tears ended and the rain began. She raised her eyes to the sky and with a trembling voice whispered, "If destiny exists, may it give me back what I lost, but may it give me back multiplied." At that moment, a car stopped near the sidewalk. A woman with a blue umbrella got out, a nurse named Jin-ho, who looked at her with compassion. Without asking any questions, he simply extended his hand. Hana hesitated, but accepted. And in that silent gesture, something transformed within her, not forgiveness, but the seed of a new beginning. As the car drove away through the wet streets of Seoul, Hana looked out the window and saw the mansion's reflection disappearing into the distance. What she didn't yet know was that that very night, fate was beginning to set the stage for her rebirth. A rebirth that would bring more strength than any revenge. The following days were like a slow, hazy dream. When Hana woke for the first time in a bed that wasn't her own, the distant sound of Jeju's waves mingled with the gentle aroma of ginger tea wafting from the kitchen. Jin-ho, the nurse who had rescued her, lived alone in a small house by the sea. The place was simple, but there was something about it that felt alive. The sound of seagulls, the smell of salt, and the wind that blew against the windows with a serenity Hana had forgotten existed. For the first time in years, she could breathe without fear of judgment, without having to measure every gesture to please someone who had never truly seen her. For weeks, Hana slept more than she spoke. Her body still carried the weight of the trauma, but little by little, the island routine began to silently heal her. Jin-ho, kind and practical, didn't ask questions, just offered her small tasks, tending the flowers, making soups, organizing cupboards. Over time, Hana began helping out at the local hospital, first washing utensils, then assisting elderly patients. It was in this environment of simplicity and shared grief that she rediscovered what it meant to be useful, not out of obligation, but out of compassion. Time in Jeju felt different. The mornings seemed longer, the afternoons lighter. Hana began walking along the seaside trails, and with each step, she felt her inner wounds heal a little more. Sometimes the wind brought memories, the sound of Jun-ho's voice, the scent of the mansion's hallways. But instead of pain, these memories now evoked only silence. She no longer fought them. She simply let them pass, like clouds. With the help of Jin-ho and the local community, Hana opened a small community clinic. The space served humble women, many of them single mothers or widows, and became a refuge for those who had been wounded by life. The strength that had previously been invisible now flowed through her hands. When the children ran around the courtyard and laughed loudly, something inside her warmed, a tenderness that reminded her of everything she had longed to be, but which fate had postponed. One afternoon, while recording patients' names in an old notebook, a pregnant woman commented on a powerful new figure in Seoul. Mrs. Jun-ho Kang, wife of Chairman Jun-ho, is expecting the heir. Hana paused for a moment. The pencil slipped from her hand. The name echoed within her like a cold wind from the past. But unlike before, there was no hatred in her gaze, only a strange calm, the feeling that the truth, no matter how long it takes, always finds its way back. That night, as the sun set over the golden sea, Hana stood on the balcony gazing at the horizon, feeling the silence bring something new, something she couldn't name. Fate was beginning to move again, and what was about to happen in Seoul would show that the brightest lies are also the most fragile. Because while Hana rebuilt her life amid laughter and waves, the woman who had taken her place lived surrounded by luxury, but sustained by a farce about to crumble. And when the truth began to emerge, no secret would be able to withstand the force of approaching karma. In Seoul, the Hanseong Empire shone brighter than ever. Business magazines and TV shows extolled the president's new golden age. Jun-ho Kang, now married to the elegant and admired Mi-yeon, photos of the couple dominated the headlines. She, with her supposedly growing belly, he with a forced smile, trying to look like the accomplished man everyone expected to see. But behind the mansion's gates, the walls held a secret that was beginning to fester in silence. Mi-yeon played her role perfectly. She walked slowly, stroking her abdomen, feigning nausea and the typical pains of pregnancy. She had private doctors who signed false reports, nurses paid to maintain the show, and a public relations team dedicated to spreading only what she wanted the world to believe. Jun-ho, still blinded by guilt and the need to prove something to himself, accepted everything without question. He needed that lie to keep up. Appearances, to silence the doubt that gnawed at him. But fate, patient and relentless, began to move its pieces with invisible precision. During one of the secret consultations, the family doctor, the respected Dr. A.S. Han Dae-sung, he noticed something strange. The previous reports, signed by himself, had been altered. The test results didn't match, and when he tried to confront Mi-yeon, she reacted with a calmness that hid her terror. "Doctor, you know that some truths cost too much," she said. Offering a heavy envelope across the table, he refused, but her gaze, cold, cutting, made it clear that the power was still on her side. For now. Meanwhile, rumors began to circulate among the house's staff. Mi-yeon's clothes didn't seem appropriate for a pregnant woman, and the room prepared for the baby remained empty. Some staff swore they heard her crying alone in the bathroom. Others claimed to have seen medicine bottles hidden in drawers. The lie was beginning to show its cracks. On a particularly quiet night, Mi-yeon stood before the bedroom mirror, dressed in red silk, her hand resting on her smooth stomach. The reflection seemed to mock her. For a moment, her confident expression fell, and tears streamed down her face, smearing her flawless makeup. She knew she couldn't keep up this pretense much longer, but for a woman like Mi-yeon, admitting the truth would be accepting defeat, and she would rather die than go back to being nobody. While she was drowning in secrets, Jun-ho in his office was poring over old medical records. One detail caught his eye, a date, a fertility test done years ago which he never remembered reading. The name Dr. Han Dae-sung was there, followed by a result that made him hold his breath. For a moment, the world seemed to stop, because in that small, forgotten piece of paper lurked a truth capable of destroying everything he believed himself to be. And when the past resurfaced to confront him, Jun-ho would discover that the cruelest punishment comes not from the enemy, but from his own conscience. The clock in the office seemed louder than ever. Each tick echoed like a cruel reminder of wasted time, of years spent chasing a truth that never existed. Jun-ho held the forgotten test in his hands, the same one the doctor had asked to retake years ago when the couple was still trying to conceive. The result was clear, objective, impossible to distort. Permanent infertility. That simple piece of paper contained the sentence that changed everything. For a moment, he wanted to believe it was a mistake, a mix-up of names, a medical coincidence. But the clinic's seal, the doctor's stamp, and the unmistakable signature confirmed the inevitable. He had always been the sterile one. The room began to spin slowly, and Jun-ho dropped the document onto the table. The memory of every insult he'd hurled at Hana, every tear he'd ignored, began to crush him like an unstoppable tide of guilt. Her words echoed within him like an ancient curse. One day, destiny will show you what it means to lose. He staggered to his feet and walked to the office mirror. The man staring back at him was a stranger, weary, aged, the glow of power dimmed by shame. Upstairs, Mi-yeon was getting ready for bed. Jun-ho entered the room without knocking, holding the crumpled exam paper between his fingers. "You knew," he said hoarsely. "You knew it from the beginning." Mi-yeon, still wearing a mask of false calm, tried to smile. "You knew what?" "That you refused to face the truth, that you needed a lie to feel like a man." The answer hit him like a blow. He felt his legs weaken, his heart race. "So, you've never been pregnant?" Her voice came out shaky, almost a whisper. She laughed, a short, bitter laugh. "I only gave the world the illusion it wanted to see. You taught me that, Jun-ho. Appearance is more important than truth." The silence that followed was devastating. Rain began to fall outside, and for a moment, the sound of the drops seemed to echo the same rhythm as his heart, heavy and irregular. Jun-ho turned, stunned, and left the room without another word. He walked through the empty hallways, each step reverberating like an echo of regret. Everything he had built, his marriage, his company, his reputation, was crumbling before his eyes. Alone, he opened the office safe and took out an old photograph. Hana, smiling in the sunset light, her face serene and pure. The contrast between that memory and the present tore him apart. He sat on the floor, the photo in his hands, and cried for the first time in years, sincere, heavy, belated tears. But regret, no matter how deep, never erases the consequences. And when Jun-ho decided to seek forgiveness, the universe seemed to have already run its course, a course that would lead him straight to reuniting with the woman he destroyed. Because sometimes, fate offers no second chances, only a path back to the one you hurt. And for Jun-ho, that journey was just beginning. Journey where every step would bring him closer to forgiveness and ultimate punishment. The following months became a silent journey, a desert where every memory was a painful mirage. Jun-ho abandoned the comfort of the mansion, trading expensive suits for simple coats and a life of solitude. The company remained under the control of its directors, but nothing else mattered to him. The man who once dominated the market and dictated rules in boardrooms now walked the streets with a lost gaze, as if searching for something the world has forgotten. His sole purpose was to find her, Hana, the woman he had destroyed, without understanding that she was the foundation of everything truly valuable. The first clue came through the Dr. A.S. Han Dae-sung, the same doctor who had remained silent out of pity. Seeing Jun-ho's condition, the doctor sighed and, in a calm voice, said, "She didn't die, Mr. Kang. She started over. And maybe that's why you'll never find her. Because who she was no longer exists." Still, the businessman insisted. He traveled to Busan, where he met Hana's elderly father, a man with a tired look, who welcomed him without rancor, but also without affection. "The pain you caused my daughter was too great," the old man said as he poured her tea. "But she learned to transform pain into purpose. If you still want to see her, look where there is life, not where there are memories." Those words echoed in Jun-ho's mind for days. He wandered from hospitals, clinics, and temples, always with Hana's photograph in his hands. Many recognized her. Few knew where she had gone. With every indifferent glance, every "I'm sorry, I don't know," he felt guilt turn into punishment. He slept little, ate poorly, sustaining himself only by the hope of a reunion that might never happen. One morning at a small neighborhood clinic, a nurse casually mentioned a doctor in Jeju who helped needy families. "Her name is Hana Yoo," he said, unaware of the impact of those words. Jun-ho stood still, his heart racing as if life were beating again for the first time in years. That same day, he boarded the first flight to the island. During the trip, he watched the sea through the window and remembered the sound of Hana's voice, the shy smile with which she would wait for him on nights when he arrived late, the times she would say tenderly, "You don't have to be strong all the time." Now it was too late to hear that again. As the plane landed, the rain began to fall lightly, almost symbolically. Jun-ho took a deep breath, smelling the sea mixed with melancholy. The island, shrouded in mist, seemed to hide more than it revealed. Still, he pressed on. Regret was his compass, and forgiveness was the destiny that awaited him, if time still granted him that grace. But fate rarely delivers forgiveness without first demanding confrontation. And what Jun-ho was about to find in Jeju wouldn't just be Hana, but the version of her who rose from the ashes, a woman who no longer needed him to be complete. The light rain falling over Jeju carried a scent of sea air and destiny. The narrow streets of the coastal village were nearly deserted when Jun-ho arrived, guided only by the vague instructions of a fisherman who had mentioned the doctor of lonely mothers. The cold wind blew against his face, and each drop seemed to whisper the same name, Hana. He walked down a cobblestone alley until he spotted a small white clinic surrounded by lotus trees. The simple sign, Red Hope Clinic, Dr. Yoo Hana. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. He stood at the entrance, not daring to knock. Through the fogged glass, he could see a woman in a lab coat tending to a crying child. The way she leaned in, the care in her gestures, the serene gaze, they were unmistakable. It was her, Hana. But there was something different, something that completely disarmed him. She was no longer the fragile woman he had driven from the mansion, but someone reborn from her own pain, who had learned to transform scars into shelter. When the consultation ended and she turned toward the door, their eyes met for a brief moment. Time stood still. Hana stood still, her heart racing, trying to understand if this was real or just a shadow of the past. Jun-ho, on the other side, felt his body shiver. The rain intensified, blurring the glass, as if the universe were trying to hide the scene and prolong the inevitable tension. He finally entered, his soaked shoes stomping on the floor. With heavy footsteps, Hana watched him silently, showing neither surprise nor anger, just serenity. "So this is where fate has brought me," he said hoarsely. "I've searched for you in every corner of the world." She didn't answer. She placed her stethoscope on the table and folded her hands, as if preparing to hear the final diagnosis of a soul in ruins. "What are you here for, Jun-ho?" he asked, and the sound of his own name on her lips seemed to strip away every defense he still tried to maintain. "I'm sorry," he murmured, kneeling before her. "Not a day goes by that I don't relive what I did. I discovered too late that the sterile thing wasn't my body. It was my heart." Those words echoed between them, with the same weight as the rain beating against the windows. Hana looked down, and for a moment he thought she might cry. But instead, she slowly stood up, took 2 steps forward, and calmly replied, "I learned that time doesn't erase what happened. It just teaches us to move forward without looking back." The silence between them was broken by the sound of small footsteps coming from the hallway. A childish voice echoed, pure and unexpected. "Mom, are you done with the work?" Jun-ho turned in surprise to see a boy of about 5 running up to Hana and hugging her legs. His heart skipped a beat. An ancient instinct stirred, a mixture of tenderness and disbelief. Who was this child, and what did she represent in the new life of the woman he had lost? For a brief moment, Jun-ho couldn't move. The scene before his eyes seemed to defy time, space, and logic. The child, dark-haired and deep-eyed, watched him with the innocence of someone who hasn't yet grasped the weight of the stories surrounding him. The boy hid behind Hana's leg, and the way she bent down to adjust the collar of his shirt revealed a sweetness Jun-ho had never seen before. There was something new in her every gesture, something that went beyond pain and the past. That little boy was the symbol of what she had become, a woman who, even shattered, had found a way to blossom. "This is Min-woo Hana," Hana said, her voice calm but full of meaning. "He came to me when no one else did." The boy smiled and took her hand naturally, unaware of the turmoil it caused in Jun-ho. "He is your son?" he asked, trying to control his emotions, but the words came out shaky, as if the wind was carrying them with effort. Hana looked at him firmly without hesitation. "Yes, my son of the heart, an orphan I found sick and alone. I adopted him. He taught me what true love is, the kind that doesn't need blood to exist." Jun-ho lowered his gaze. Those words struck him harder than any divine punishment could. All his life, he had sought an heir as a trophy, as an extension of his own pride, and now before him stood a woman who understood love purely, selflessly, completely. His eyes welled up, and he slowly approached, kneeling to the boy's level. "Hello, Min-woo," he said quietly, trying to smile. "You're lucky to have such an amazing mother." The boy, curious, just nodded and answered simply, "She says she was the one who was lucky." And then she ran into the yard, laughing, leaving the two face to face again. The sound of children's laughter echoed through the house, filling the air with a peace that contrasted with their dark past. Jun-ho looked around and noticed the drawings on the walls, the simple toys, the vases of fresh flowers. This small, modest home was more vibrant than any marble palace he had ever owned. And for the first time, he understood what he had truly lost. Not a wife, but the chance at true love. He reached out, but Hana calmly took a step back. "The love I felt for you is dead, Jun-ho," he said, without rancor, just with an old sadness. "But forgiveness, that I can give you. Because forgiving isn't taking something back. It's freeing yourself from what once destroyed us." Jun-ho took a deep breath, trying to hold back the tears. She then turned to the window, watching the boy play in the light rain that was beginning to fall. The water reflected the golden light of dusk, and in that moment it seemed as if the universe itself wanted to seal the scene in stillness. But fate still had its final scene in store. The moment when past and present would merge under the same rain, bringing the sound of a late and inevitable redemption. Night fell over Jeju with the serenity of a farewell. Outside, the rain glided gently, almost reverently, as if the sky wanted to tell the end of that story in murmurs of water. Jun-ho stood on the balcony, watching Hana and little Min-woo playing in the dew, the boys' laughter mingling with the distant sound of the waves. That simple image, mother and son smiling, was all he could ever preserve. Each laugh was a vivid reminder of what pride had destroyed, and with each drop that touched his face, he felt the weight of regret melt into silence. Hana noticed him and approached slowly, carrying an umbrella. Her Gaze held no rancor, only the peace of someone who had forgiven without needing to forget. "Life is curious, isn't it?" she said, her voice serene. "The same sky that once saw me kneeling in tears now covers me with the rain of new beginnings." Jun-ho tried to answer, but his voice faltered. The wind blew, stirring her hair, and for a moment he wanted to touch her, but he held back the impulse. That gesture was no longer his. "I destroyed everything I touched," he confessed, looking at the eyes ground. "And yet you blossomed from the ashes I left." Hana sighed and smiled slightly. "Fate has a poetic way of giving back what we take from others. Some call it karma. I call it learning." He looked up and added, "Sometimes you have to go through the storm to understand the value of the sun." Minwoo ran to her, asking for shelter, and Hana led him inside. Jun-ho remained alone on the porch, watching the door close. The boys' laughter echoed like a distant song, and the sound of the rain grew louder, washing away the past and regret. Hours later, back in the empty mansion, Jun-ho stared at the gate where he had once thrown her out. He closed his eyes and let the rain fall without resistance. A faint smile emerged through his tears. "Now I understand, Hana," he murmured. "The true heir is the love that survives." And the sound of rain answered for him, closing the cycle with the purity of a belated forgiveness.